hung in the chimney just so, with the hopes they get filled up from ankle to toe. The nix nooches snoozing without any sound in their heads, clear toy candy's been dancing around, and Mama and me, well, be out in the light. Be out in the light, crawl under the covers and snuggle up tight. Then from the outside, we heard something fierce that made open our eyeballs and rattle our ears. There was crashing and banging, and could it be true? Did our ears deceive us, or was that a moo? Then off to the window we ran in the dark, kicked the dog accidentally, started to bark. When we looked through the window, coming in through the gate, it wasn't one moor we saw, it was 8. 4 cows and 4 steers. They were harnessed somehow, and were dragging behind them an old-fashioned plow. And there, just behind it, as sour as a pickle was, the fellow we knew had to be the bellsnickel. He wiggled that plow to keep going on course. I think he'd done better if he'd had a horse. That's not nice. Not easy. Can I wet my finger?
Sure.
Well. So Doppler, that's what they said that about children are Doppler. And slow, those 8 dummers did run, and he growled and he grumbled and yelled at each one. Doppler, they explained, means clumsy. Now Jackie, not Becky, now Rachel and Josiah, and Menno and Sarah, Esther, Obadiah. And watch where you're going. There's nothing unwiser than stamping your hoofs into stray fertilizer. All the children leave the room. They got through the barnyard without any hitch, as the bellsnickel grumbled and raised a big switch. Climb up on that roof now, and you make it snappy. You don't wanna make me no more unhappy. Mocked Alf on that trestle, baked on that trestle, then onto the porch roof. And don't get no ivy vines caught in your hoof. I'll get awful gristlage. I don't want to explain it, grumpy. If you make me fall, so clamber up, all. So they went up on the roof. Like the chickens all look when to flying they're trying, or the mess kids. That's German does that, and it has the preposition, it has the verb at the end, and it gets you. Like the chickens all look when to flying they're trying. Or the mess kids are making when shoes they are tying. So clumsy they climbed up an inch with each moo. But somehow they made it, and it wonders me too. But then in a twinkle we heard on the roof, each cow that was lurching around, stamping his hoof. The cracks on the roof timbers filled all our ears, 'cause it just wasn't built for 4 cows and 4 By now all the kiddies had run in our room, frightened by all those cracks and these booms. To tell them what happened, I was going to begin when chomping cheese zooey, the ceiling fell in. Down came the bellsnickel right in our bed, a few singles making down right on his head. And when we looked through the hole in the ceiling, it was just a little bit worried we're feeling. For those overhead was that 8 head of cattle, still stomping so hard that it made the valve holes rattle. We felt as if we'd all been cursed and verhexed. That cows would fall down into our bedroom next. But they stayed on the roof, stayed, and I wiped away sweat, then looked at that scary old bellsnickel yet. He had got to his feet and was brushing his breeches, holding his sack, and using his switches. He was dressed all in black from his toes to his hat, and he frowned and said, Hey, what are you looking at? Aren't you never seen no Bell's nickel before? Well, I had, but the others had come through the door. His beard was all strublik. You know, strublik, like unorganized.
Strublik.
And his head was all strublik, his beard was all strublik, and white as snowfall. And his belly so skinny it nearly was all.
Nothing.
I couldn't help thinking that this crabby guy caused a few dumplings and shoe fly pie. His eyes, they looked angry, but though they seemed wild, when he looked at his kitties, he just sort of smiled. Then he wiped it away like he'd made a mistake, or for him some schnitzelnet. Mama should make. Schnitzelnet is dried apples and fluffy dough balls. Schnitzelnet.
Yum.
Then he asked all the kiddies, have you been bad or sweet? If it's good that you've been, then I'll give you a treat. But if you've been bad, then I'll warm your britches. It's one of my special bad kitty switches. They said they'd been good and were telling the truth. Still he glowered at Amos, he grimaced at Ruth, he frowned down at Abner, who just kind of grinned as the Bell's nickel leaned down and tickled his chin. Ah, crabby I might seem, but you, don't you forget, I ain't never had to spank one kitty yet. It just must be something around in here makes the kitties act better at this time of year. So what is that? So his switches he dropped and he opened his sack and he handed out oranges, yo-yos, and jacks. A dolly for Ruth, a wood horse for Amos. We laughed as we watched him, and who could blame us? And finally he gave to Abner a teddy with that final gift to leave he was ready. So he said as he crawled over shingles and sticks, I'll send over Stoltzfus, your broke roof to fix. Stoltzfus was somebody we knew several years ago, some family or something. We laughed because it's kind of made fun of him. Then he jumped the hole through up his wading plow and he yelled to his livestock, get going and now! Down to the ground and without no complaint until we get done and the houses all ain't. They sprung off the roof to the yard way below where they got stuck in nearly 40 inches of snow. And that Bell's nickel yelled, brushing snow off his head, Merry Christmas to all, now just go back to bed.
Outstanding.